Good morning. Today we are ringing our peace bowl. We affirm our collective hope for peace and also peace for those people in Ukraine. We acknowledge that these lands that we love are the ancestral lands of the Yavapai people. Our gathering music this morning is All Things Bright and Beautiful, an Anglican hymn. Thank you, Lena. Good morning again, and welcome to Granite Peak Unitarian Universalist Congregation in Prescott. I see we have many guests here today, so we'll have a chance for you to say hello to us at the end of the service. I am Fred Krabs, your worship associate today, and we extend a warm welcome to all. We are glad that you're able to join us and hope that everyone is in good health. They wanted me to make a little announcement at the moment. There are some tagged little dots outside on the table out there. If you do not want to have hugs, put a red dot on. If you accept hugs, put a green dot on. All right? Okay. This is the mission statement of our congregation. We are a compassionate, spiritual community that celebrates diversity, nurtures the personal and spiritual growth of all ages, shares our gifts, promotes justice for all, and serves the world we live in. So join us after the service for socializing in small groups in the sanctuary. And if you're viewing the service on Zoom, please join us in the breakout rooms after the service. How many people do we have on Zoom today? 18 people. Well, 18 participants. That's probably more than 18 people. So if you're joining us for the first time, please check out our website at prescott.uu.org for more information about us. And if you're here in person, there will be time to introduce yourself at the end of the service, and then please stay and chat with a member or two. We want to thank Reverend Tom Catlin, our pianist, Reverend Lena Huben. I almost get it right. Did I get it right that time? And Russ Erickson, who will be leading us in our hymns today. Deidre Swartz on the control panel, all the people who helped with the setup and ushering today, and those who are making the coffee, which is one of those important beverages for us all after the service. So please take a moment to put your phone on worship mode. Okay, and we have, in addition to the announcements on the screen before and after the service, you can also read about them in the weekly Peak newsletter, on our website, and Reverend Patty's videos. Sandra Palacios, our Children's Faith Development Coordinator, is teaching ages 5 and older across the street at the Faith Development Building. I forgot to get it. Who would like, I'm sorry, who would like to be our chalice later today? All right. Forgot to ask somebody to be the cellist later. We light this chalice, a symbol of our heritage and gratitude for this beloved community. Our words of gathering today come from braiding sweetgrass. Excuse me, I am going through a dental thing, so I'm going to have some difficulty sometimes pronouncing some things. And, you know, I got one song that keeps going around and around in my head right now. All I want for Christmas is my 2 front teeth. So how many people got to read Braiding Sweetgrass? Oh, a good majority of the people here. So this is taken from the Onondaga Thanksgiving address. We now turn our thoughts to the Creator, or Great Spirit, and send greetings and thanks for all the gifts of creation. Everything we need to live a good life is here on Mother Earth. For all the love that is still around us, we gather our minds together as one and send our choicest words of greetings and thanks to the Creator. So if we all please stand in body and spirit and soul and sing hymn number 349, We Gather Together.
We gather together in joyful thanksgiving, acclaiming creation whose bounty we share. Both sorrow and gladness we find now in our living. We sing a hymn of praise to the life that we bear. We gather together to join in the journey, confirming, commending our passage to be a true affirmation in joy and tribulation, when bound to human care and hope, then we are free.
Trust. Please join me in saying the words to our covenant. Love is the doctrine of this congregation. The quest for truth is sacrament, and service is its prayer. We dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve others in community. Thus, we covenant together. A tradition of joys and sorrows may be different now, but we continue to struggle with sorrows and to find joys to celebrate. Let us be silent for a moment and think about our various joys and sorrows. Let us now do have our tradition, our new tradition of putting the stones in the bowl so that the rings may wipe out for your various sorrows and joys. I will place the first one for the people of Ukraine. all the concerns and joys not spoken aloud today, may our spirit embrace you and our love fill your heart. So may it be. Please join me in singing these words of comfort. As we prepare to take the offering this morning, let us embrace the feeling of connection and community that we have together here each week. Let us remember that this congregation and its programs are supported by your generosity. We also give to the greater community through our Season Support Program. This month's recipient is one of my favorite ones. I don't know how many people ever work. We used to service the Salvation Army's winter warm-up. We used to serve dinner. How many people here were part of serving dinners with them? That's a wonderful program. So they're an overnight emergency shelter for men during the winter's months. They serve meals to both men and women at 6 p.m. After a meal is served, women needing shelter are transported to Prescott Area Shelter Services or Coalition for Compassion and Justice, depending on availability. Our offertory music today is Gratitude by Kim Robertson. Do we have ushers this morning? Yes, we do. All right, great. Thank you, Lena. That was beautiful. We acknowledge the generosity of spirit expressed through this offering. What is given in love is received in gratitude. Blessed be. Our reading this morning comes from Ralph Waldo Emerson. Cultivate the habit of being grateful for every good thing that comes to you, and to give thanks continuously. And because all things have contributed to your advancement, you should include all things in your gratitude. Let's stand in body and spirit and sing hymn number 355, We Lift Our Hearts in Thanks. Now, this is a new hymn for us, so Lena is going to play it through once so that we get a sense of the tune.
We lift our hearts in faith today for all the gifts of life. We for the peace that turns away the enmities of strife. And next to beauty of the earth, its flowers, lovely things, and spring's great miracles of birth, with sound of songs of wings. When harvest off its teeming soul in orchid crafted field, but more great miracles of God, with sound help them yield. Love, of wisdom, truth, and right. The Lord service and the toil of theme who held them nigh. Thanks for your patience.
And Lena was right. I chose it because the words, not the tune. Okay, our guest speaker today is the Reverend Tom Catlin. Tom was born in Evanston, Illinois, and grew up in the Chicago area. He graduated from Denison University in 1971. I got a little aside to say about that. I read this, and all of a sudden I say, oh my God, I was an adjunct professor at Denison University for a number of years. So as Tom said when I mentioned it to him, this is a small world. He became a transcendental meditation teacher in 1974 and lived in California for a while. He got an associate's degree in heating and air conditioning in 1980 and worked in the field of alternative energy. Tom was ordained as a Unity minister in 1990 and came to Prescott that same year as the minister of Unity of Prescott. Tom and Pam were married in 1991. Pam is here with us. Pam, yes. Pam is also a horticultural therapist, so some people may want to speak with her after today's service. Tom retired from Unity of Prescott in 2014 and is currently as busy as he wants to be, doing some woodworking, occasional ministry responsibility, and walking his dog, Lily. Tom?
Well, good morning, everyone. It's true, I am a Unity minister, and so you might wonder if I got lost and took a wrong turn here to end up at the Unitarian Fellowship. But it is true that if I had a nickel for every time someone said to me, "So you're a Unitarian," I would be doing pretty well. But I do feel like I'm really in my right place here today, and I'm very grateful that you would invite me to share with you this morning. Thank you. Recently, I found myself in a bit of a funk. It happens. Too much, I think the diet of a little too much disturbing and depressing news contributed to the fact that I got myself on a thinking track that was really about worrying. And it's a pattern for me. And when I fall into that, I can worry about all kinds of things, global and small. it's kind of a thing that I come by honestly, I guess you could say. My father was a bit of a worrier, bless him. And I remember my mother saying one time that she didn't worry much because he worried enough for both of them. Anyway, I knew that my train of thought needed to get on a different track. And so blessedly, I was asked to speak at a couple of different places on a subject of my choice, one of which was a Unity Church down in Sun City, and one was right here today. So for a minister, that gives you an opportunity to really focus on something that is currently meaningful for you, something that's kind of on your mind and heart. And for me, it was the topic that I chose was something that has been very important to me over the years and has really made a difference in my life. And that is the subject of gratitude. And of course, the timing was excellent because here we are, we're on the verge of this one holiday. As far as I'm concerned, gratitude is a spiritual practice. And here we are about to celebrate the one holiday that honors and acknowledges a spiritual practice, and that is Thanksgiving. In my book, it's pretty much the best holiday of the year. I mean, we usually have kind of a special meal, often with friends or with family. We don't have to, no need to buy gifts for Thanksgiving. We can flop down on the couch and watch football if we want to, or go for a hike because there's so many people sitting on the couch watching football that the trails are kind of quiet on Thanksgiving Day. And hopefully it is a reminder of the tremendous blessing that gratitude can play in our lives. So now I had a couple of appointments to fulfill. I had a couple of reasons to really motivate me, and I started focusing on gratitude in preparation. And of course, it immediately made a difference in my life, how I was thinking and how I was feeling. It's like I said, it's a spiritual practice for me, so it works when I work it. One of the things that I began by doing is making a list, a gratitude list. I don't know if this is something that any of you carry out from time to time, but for me, a list of things to be grateful for is enormous. I mean, I'm a very blessed individual in many respects, but I did find that there was one thing that kind of popped up for me in a way, and that was that about 3 years ago, I ended up, due to what I would consider some very good and meaningful guidance, both inner guidance and outer guidance, I ended up in a hospital in Spokane, and I had 3 stents put in a coronary artery. And the doctor, who I'm very grateful for, Dr. Bell, who did a wonderful job, evidently, he said that even though my symptoms were pretty mild, that I was over 90% plugged up on that side of my heart. And while I was thinking about just waiting and dealing with it when I got back to Prescott, he said he frankly didn't think I would have made it. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful on many levels. But I have learned over the years that gratitude, most importantly, can really mean something beyond just being grateful for something good that happens in our lives. And that's really what I would like to focus on today. By the way, there are a lot of studies, if you check on the internet. Unfortunately, I couldn't squeeze everything that I would have liked to into this talk today, but if you look on the internet, there are many scientific studies that indicate how beneficial gratitude is to our health and our well-being. Let me just read you a couple of things. There are studies that indicate that it can improve our sleep, improve our heart health, improve the status of our immune system, improve relationships and experiences of bringing experiences of well-being and a self-esteem, among other things. And when I looked up Unitarian and gratitude, I found there's apparently a magazine called UU World, And I found quite a few articles on the subject, one of which was a Unitarian minister who said the following. I'm actually not quoting him, but I'm just paraphrasing what he said. He said that while he was speaking to the defining discipline of Unitarianism, and he said, while the defining discipline of Judaism may be obedience to God, and for Christians, love, for Muslims, submission to Allah, he feels that the defining discipline of Unitarians should be gratitude. And there was another article there in which the Unitarian minister who wrote the article actually described gratitude as a spiritual discipline. So I had some work to do. I started by engaging in some prayer. Meister Eckhart, who was a well-known mystic from the Middle Ages, who washed a lot of pots and raised a lot of consciousness, said that if the only prayer we know is thank you, that is enough. Now, it's true that I taught meditation for many years. Meditation has played an important part in my role in my life, and as has prayer. And so when I engage in prayer, it's something a little different perhaps than what people may typically think of as prayer. For me, prayer is about changing myself. It's not about getting God to do something that God would not otherwise do. It's not so I don't have to plead with God or beg God. For me, prayer is about attuning myself to that blessing, that universal source of all good that is ever available to us. The analogy that I would use is that, say I had a radio set and I was having trouble pulling in the broadcast. Instead of phoning the radio station and saying, will you please change your frequency? Please, please, please. For me, prayer is really about tuning my own radio set into that broadcast that is ever available to us. So thank you is a wonderful prayer. It's the simplest, but a beautiful prayer. Simply thank you. Thank you to God, to life, to the universe, to that benevolent and unifying force that blesses us. We can call it what we will. And also, thank you to maybe our children, our neighbor, our friends, our parents, somebody or anybody. Thank you is a wonderful way to share some of that consciousness of good. So I also began looking for things to be grateful for. It's amazing how when we are looking for things, we often find what we're looking for. And of course, big and small, if we are willing to just look around us, so often we see how many things there are at hand for us to be grateful for. I found myself looking at a flower the other day, and I don't know if you may have ever done this. I mean, hopefully you have flowers around the house occasionally, but just to look at close up at the blossom of a flower, it is remarkable what you will see there. Well, I also reminded myself that there is an underlying perfection, what I would call a divine order to my life, that I can trust even in the midst of trying circumstances. There is an underlying flow of greater good. And if I could just get past that little voice in my head that's complaining and worrying, it's available there for me. And I can recall how many times there are things that looked really difficult, really bad, but they turned out to have a blessing to share with me if I was willing to look for it. I've been reading a book lately called The Surrender Experiment by Michael Singer. Anybody read that book? Anyway, it's a very good book. I would suggest it. And he makes a wonderful case for that benevolent flow that is flowing through his life when he is able to get past that voice in his head that is worrying, that anxious voice, and allow just life to happen. And I found that this book, among other things, first, it made me a little nostalgic for the age of Aquarius, but that's another talk for another day. But I found that it helped me to recognize more clearly that worrying and anxious voice that is so often present in my head, he makes a case that when we recognize that voice, when we notice it, that it's not a matter of trying to crush it or stomp on it, but just to not give it the steering wheel of our life. There are deeper and more important things to guide us, and there is a flow of life that moves in and through our lives if we are just able to look for it and allow it. Now, sometimes we might feel like we don't have anything to be grateful for, or it may seem like there's something negative in our lives that just makes gratitude out of the question. And that I'd like to touch on that today. So let's start with what gratitude is. I think gratitude is largely considered an appreciative response for receiving some good that comes to us. We have a tendency to think of it as a reaction. At least that's the way I used to think about it. Gratitude was an emotion that you felt if somebody gave you something, or at least you were supposed to feel it. Say thank you in any case, whether you feel grateful for that tie or that pair of socks in any case. But, it was interesting. Pam and I were talking to a lawyer recently about a trust, and he said that he knows of more than one occasion where somebody was cut out of the will because they just never got around to saying thank you to grandma for that gift that she gave him. By the way, as far as grandmas are concerned, that reminds me of a little story that a friend of mine named Chuck told me about his. He's going to visit his grandmother for Thanksgiving, and they're talking on the phone. She's living in a new place, and she says, "So now, when you get here, you'll find that there's a board there that has all these numbers on it and buttons, and so." What I want you to do is with your elbow, push the button for 303. That's my apartment, and I will buzz you in. And she says, and then when you get in, right there, there's an elevator. And you go in, and with your elbow, I want you to push the 3 for the third floor, and you'll get up to the third floor. And then just 2 doors down to the right, you'll see 303, and then you just push the doorbell with your elbow, and I'll let you in. And he says, well, Grandma, I think I can manage that. I mean, that's all well and good, but what's this thing about the elbow? And she says, what, you didn't plan to have your hands full? Anyway, fortunately, the universe doesn't work like Grandma. God doesn't need our gratitude. But we do, because it has the capacity to change our minds and change our lives. I found a key that has unlocked some of this for me in a book called Spiritual Economics by Eric Butterworth, which is now lying on the floor next to me. And Butterworth had a chapter in this book called The Greatful Heart. And in it, he shares the following. It is a cosmic ideal that has been caught and taught by mystic teachers of all ages. Perhaps no one has articulated it better than Plato, who said more than 2,500 years ago, a grateful mind is a great mind, which eventually attracts to itself great things. A tremendous insight. And then he goes on to say, some persons might protest, but you don't understand my situation. How can I be grateful in my financial dilemma? This is precisely the time to stir up the gift of gratitude. Remember, it is not a reactionary emotion, but a causative energy. Now, I suspect that that word causative is a word that he made up, because I don't know if it's in, I kind of doubt that it's in the dictionary, but I agree with the sentiment that gratitude is not just a reaction to something good, but it is a causative, creative, attractive energy field that attracts and creates the opportunity for good in our lives. And it is also a field of energy in which we are radiating out to others something good. It's a spiritual practice that can elevate our energy field. And we don't have to wait for something good to happen in order to feel grateful. We can shift into a mindset of gratitude and move into a state of consciousness that opens the way for something good to take place. So I found it helpful to think of this in terms of energy. And it wasn't the kind of energy, alternative energy that I studied back with heating and air conditioning, but I would submit to you that we are each an energy field in a vast energy network. And we are radiating a vibration that reflects our consciousness, our thinking, and our feeling. We are radiating it out into our surroundings. And as we are sowing, so we are reaping. It is coming back to us at the same level of vibration. So let's imagine for a moment that we have a hypothetical energy gauge up here that starts down here. I'm going to be the pointer, and it goes up here. And down here at this lower level, we have kind of low and slow and dense vibrations like hate and fear. But as we move up the gauge, we move into, maybe we're still in sort of materialistic vibrations here, but maybe we're into a little anxiety or whatever that else might be. But as we move up this scale of energy, we find that we start to move into vibrations like hope and peacefulness and joy and love. Now, up at these higher levels, the grip of materiality is less. The sense of separation is less. The sense of connection is greater. And we start to move into what I would call maybe the zone of greater possibilities, where things can happen. Greater possibilities open up at that energy level. And gratitude is a remarkable method or means for shifting where we are on that energy frequency scale. And I'm reminded of something that a teacher named Tom Costa once said, which is that we cannot be grateful and unhappy at the same time. He said we cannot be grateful and unhappy at the same time. Actually, from a vibrational point of view, they are incompatible. So there are some places in the Bible that address this. And I would like to take 2 episodes to illustrate that, involving the master teacher. One was the feeding of the 5,000, and the other was the raising of Lazarus. In both cases, Jesus started out by giving thanks. He didn't wait until things were concluded successfully to give thanks. He started out by giving thanks, even though both situations looked pretty dire. Now, what I would suggest is that perhaps it's just possible that he began by giving thanks in order to move the vibration of the people all around him, of the collective consciousness there, to move up that energy level into a place where greater things were possible. By the way, I once read an explanation, a possible explanation for Jesus feeding the 5,000 that I thought was interesting. I thought I might share. And it goes like this, that perhaps as Jesus gave thanks and began handing out the meager loaves and fishes that he had, very little, that as it turned out, that the people who were there to listen to him had brought with them food that they had either in their clothing or in a satchel or in their bedding or something. They had brought it with them, but out of a fear of lack, they were holding it back. But then when he began to give thanks and began to demonstrate this sense of openness and abundance, then by raising that field of possibilities, they reached into their clothing or wherever it was and began to share what they had. And pretty soon it was apparent that there was enough for everybody already there. In other words, I think one of the ways we could think about this experience for Jesus is that when he started by giving thanks, he was raising the vibration of the people there along with him into what we might call the zone of greater possibilities. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't times in this life's journey when grief and sadness have a place. But I am saying that when we can find our way to gratitude, it can lift us into a new and rewarding perspective where amazing things are possible. Now, there's a second book that I'd like to mention briefly here, and that is this book called, if you find yourself interested in the power of gratitude to make a difference in your life, this is a wonderful book. It was written, well, it was put together by Louise Hay. It's called Gratitude, A Way of Life. Basically, she has 50 different little essays by 50 different people on their take on gratitude. What I'd like to do is read to you one that's from Dr. Bernie Siegel. He had written a couple of books. One was Love, Medicine, and Miracles, and one was Peace, Love, and Healing. And here's what he had to say. I believe that gratitude is a state of mind rather than a condition of life related to health or wealth. Let me say that some of my greatest gratitude teachers are the people I call the prisoners of life. What do I mean by that? I mean the people who are imprisoned in bodies or institutions and yet are grateful for life. I believe that once you are grateful for life, seeing it as an opportunity to give love, your life is changed and lived as it was meant to be lived by our Creator. So what shall we do to, if we want to engage a sense of gratitude in our lives and utilize this spiritual practice? Well, I would say, number one, let's start by thinking of Thanksgiving as a way of life, not just a temporary reaction to something good happening, not just a day in November that's important, but an everyday part of our lives. Number two, a gratitude journal is a very powerful way to do that. It may seem kind of intimidating to think about sitting down and writing every day in a gratitude journal, and that little voice of worry might be saying to us, oh, I can't do that. I don't have the time for that. But if that's the case, I would encourage you to just sit down, maybe on Thanksgiving Day, maybe today, and write down 10 things that you are grateful for. Number three, I would encourage you to say a prayer of gratitude. Now, maybe you haven't found prayer to be particularly meaningful for you, but I would say that a simple prayer of thank you to life, thank you to life, can make a big difference in our lives. Also, I think it's important to appreciate the beauty that is all around us. And I realize that there's much in our world that is disturbing and can be depressing. But there is also so much that is beautiful. And we can give thanks for the beauty that is all around us. Just simple things, like a sunset or a flower or that cloud in the sky or that beautiful tree that so magnificently expresses the beauty of nature. It has been said that the universe reveals its secrets to those who appreciate it. And I think there is something to that statement. It has also been said that what we focus on expands in our experience. And if we take the time to focus on the beautiful and the good, it can bless us. So I guess I would just say in conclusion that maybe one of the most important things we can do is just to say thank you. Thank you is really the active voice of gratitude. Maybe we can just find a way to say thank you this Thanksgiving or today to someone who you think ought to hear it. Or thank you to Spirit, thank you to life. I believe that it will lift a great deal of the weight of the concerns that we might have and allow us to live a healthier and happier life. Namaste.
And I must say thank you to you, Tom. So let's please stand in body or spirit and join us in singing our closing hymn, number 21, For the Beauty of the Earth.
For the beauty of the earth, for the splendor of the skies, for the love which from our birth over and around us lies. Source of all, to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise. For the joy of ear and eye, for the heart and mind's delight, for the mystic harmony, linking sense to sound and sight. Source of all, to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise. For the wonder of each hour, of the day and of the night, hill and vale and tree and flower, sun and moon and stars of light. Source of all, to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise. For the joy of human care, sister, brother, parent, child, for the kinship we all share, for all gentle thoughts and mild. Source of all, to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise.
Thank you again, Russ and Lena. I almost feel like after that hymn, I need no closing words. So our closing words today come from E.T. Powell. Thanksgiving Day is a jewel to set in the hearts of honest men, but be careful that you do not take the day and leave out the gratitude. With this, with the extinguish of the chalice, our worship time has ended, and now our service begins. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. So we have a wonderful little postlude for Thanksgiving. Over the river and through the woods to grandfather's house we go. Lena. And you're welcome to sing if you want. All right. Thank you, Lena. That's a great one to think about for Thanksgiving. Okay, I now invite you all to take as much time as you wish to visit with friends and visitors and here in person. And for those on Zoom, you may go into your breakout rooms now. Can we take them to their breakout rooms?